President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, had a really great question for the US government, and we want to hear their answer for it. The question he asked was, how come the US has billions of dollars when it's for war, but they don't have that money when it's for anything else? Let me show you this clip of his speech from the UN General Assembly. We'll come back and discuss.
Ha crecido el éxodo en las fronteras. Han puesto perros, galgos a correr tras inmigrantes. Han puesto gentes de a caballo a perseguir con látigos en la mano, con cepos y cadenas. Han construido cárceles. Tanto han crecido en el odio al extranjero, al extraño, que las cárceles las han puesto en el mar para que no pisen los hombres y mujeres del sur las tierras de los blancos, que aún se consideran la raza superior. Nos han convocado a la guerra. A la Latinoamérica la han llamado para entregar máquinas de guerra, hombres para ir a los campos de combate. Se olvidaron que a nuestros países los invadieron varias veces, los mismos que hoy hablan de luchar contra invasiones. Se olvidaron que por petróleo invadieron a Irak, a Siria, a Libia. Se olvidaron que las mismas razones que se expresan para defender a Zelensky son las mismas razones con las que se debería defender a Palestina. Se olvidaron que para cumplir los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible había que cesar todas las guerras, pero ayudaron a aprender una, porque al poder mundial le convenía en su juego de tronos, en los juegos del hambre, y se olvidaron de acabar la otra, porque el poder no le convenía acabarla. ¿Cuál diferencia entre Ucrania y Palestina?, pregunto. ¿No es hora de acabar ambas guerras y otras y aprovechar el corto tiempo para construir los caminos para salvar la vida en el planeta? Incumplieron su propia promesa de financiar la adaptación al cambio climático. No tienen 100.000 millones de dólares para entregar a los países y defenderlos de inundaciones, tormentas y huracanes, pero sí tienen en un solo día para que se maten rusos y ucranianos entre sí. Ahora no se necesitan 100.000 millones, se necesitan 3 billones de dólares para superar la crisis climática, y la cuenta asciende en cada segundo de la tierra. Como Roberto Covaría, el indígena uwa colombiano, lo decía al mundo hace 30 años, sacar el petróleo, decía, era sacar la sangre de la tierra y por ello la vida moriría. La mayoría de la inversión para descarbonizar la economía del mundo provendrá de los fondos públicos, del esfuerzo de las sociedades de juntar los estados para juntar la humanidad, que ahora llaman multilateralismo, de gobernar la tierra con la mirada de la democracia y no con la mirada del imperio. Los imperios no sirven para salvar la vida, sino para desatar las guerras. La megacrisis de la vida se resuelve con una democracia que alcance el nivel global, una democracia más profunda, que no debe temer a articular los estados y las sociedades y planificar el gran plan Marshall de la revitalización del planeta. El mercado nos ayudará a algo, pero no se le puede pedir soluciones a un mecanismo que se queda sin humanidad cuando fue este mecanismo el que produjo el problema.
He touched on really important topics during the speech, one of which is about war and how the US seems to have billions of dollars to spare when it comes to funding wars or helping with wars. But unfortunately, they do not have, like just recently, there has been a flooding, there has been a storm in Morocco and Libya thousands of people lost their lives, but the US is busy funding billions to Ukraine war, and they don't have enough for other stuff. Not to also forget their own people. I've seen so many questions when it comes to reparations in the US, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to the housing issues, but the US government focus is war and foreign policy and how they can get as much as possible from outsiders, like the fuel that he just addressed. As long as a country has natural resources, they're happy to either do it in a way where it seems like they're your friends, they're your allies, they'll have their base there, or if you say no to that, it's going to be through a war. They will claim that you have a nuclear weapon, or you know how it goes, you've committed this and that crime, this junta has done this, and they're more than happy also to come up with their own stuff, even though that's not accurate. We talked about it when the CIA agent that left that agency, he blew the whistle on all of it.
Other functions, however, some of them more legitimate than others. One is to run secret wars. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do, so you don't have to set them up sort of, you know, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the Church Committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA, including some of the biggest names in the business, to consciously introduce the stories into the press.
Well, give me a concrete example of how you use the press this way.
Well, for example, in my war, the Angola war that I helped to manage, 1/3 of my staff was propaganda. I had propagandists all over the world, principally in London, Kinshasa, and Zambia. We would take stories which we would write and put them in the Zambia Times, and then pull them out and send them to a journalist on our payroll in Europe. But his cover story, you see, would be that he had gotten them from his stringer in Lusaka, who had gotten them from the Zambia Times. But after that point, the journalists, Reuters and AFP, the management was not witting of it. Now, our contact man in Europe was, and we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. We didn't know of one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion.
Yeah, that's what they do. They will even falsify information to get their way. He also mentioned something really interesting about invasion. They claim that Russia invading Ukraine is this out of this world thing that everybody needs to care about. And most people would argue that that's not even an invasion, right? That's a provocation on Ukraine's part. NATO, and that's a different topic, but that's what they do. When it comes to them invading any other country, there's always a justification behind it. But anyways, fam, what are your thoughts on the president's speech about the US government and funding habits when it comes to war? I am Wongel Zelalem. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.